A new Warrior Legendary is here, and it's a pretty cool one.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
That's right, yet again, just one more card, but nonetheless, got to get the reviews out. If you're looking for a quick review only, just want to see the star rating, hit the link in the description below. Otherwise, let's talk about this pretty fascinating new Warrior Legendary minion. So we have here Armagedillo. Great name. Clearly Dr. Boom has fastened some pretty crazy implements to a giant armadillo out in the desert. It is a 6-mana 4/7 beast with taunt, and it reads, at the end of your turn, give all taunt minions in your hand +2/+2. And this looks like a pretty nifty minion that does a couple things well. Your first reaction might be, oh, it's a hand buff minion. Hand buff cards have traditionally not been that great in Hearthstone. It takes way too long for those stats to be put into play. There's always a delay. There's always this kind of hang up with hand buff cards where they don't get there on time. They don't have enough immediate interaction with the board. But I think Armagedillo changes that in a pretty positive way. First off, the fact that he himself has taunt attached to a fairly reasonable body for his cost, especially considering the taunt, means you're not going to feel bad playing this. It's going to feel like a card you can absolutely plop down. You know, we saw like Rin in the past would be okay to play as a 6-mana 3/6 taunt just for the potential long-term upside. This is even better than that. Like, you feel okay playing this for 6 mana and you still get some potential long-term upside because you're getting the hand buff value. Beyond that, the cards getting buffed in this case are going to be taunts, so they also force immediate interaction when they hit the board. You're not just getting a glowstone technician that's ignored and just ran over. You're actually forcing your opponent to resolve this. So against aggro decks, you have time to actually make these sort of longer term onboard stat plays make sense. They're going to get there, whereas they wouldn't in so many other hand buff style scenarios. So I think because this forces the action a little more than all these other passive hand buff cards, putting it into play immediately, making your opponent interact with it via taunt, that makes it seem like such a better play to me. Now, admittedly, this only hits taunt minions. You know, you could run taunts in other hand buff decks in the past, and that still wasn't a thing. So there's a little bit of a risk there where it's like, well, why doesn't this just buff everything and you run taunts anyway? But assuming there's some taunt synergy deck out there, you know, wild format, you've got the old quest. Maybe we see some new taunt synergy stuff pop up. A card like this starts to make a lot of sense. I think there's just some upside there. Even just hitting one taunt might make this feel worth it as you start to creep into 2, 3, 4 taunts being hit for those, you know, like +8/+8 total stat buffs. This looks really, really strong. So if you can build a consistent taunt deck, this feels like it's going to be a relevant part of it. I think this card makes a lot of sense, and it's not hard to squeeze taunts into defensive decks, right? Just like Ziliax, for instance. Don't forget, that's a taunt. So you get a buff Ziliax. It's offering a ton of healing potential. So when I look at this, yeah, I absolutely see angles for this to be played in control decks that care about taunts. It's probably not an aggro card, of course, not even a mid-range card, of course, but any kind of slower deck that has time to build up to something like this that likes taunts anyway, I don't see a lot of downsides to including Armagedillo. It's not that passive hand buff card. It actually forces some action from your opponent, and that means it's not a guilty thing to play. You're just kind of happy to play it, and then you get some upside too. So all around, this looks like a pretty solid card. And that wraps it up for the detailed review of Armagedillo. Now let's take a look at the 5-star rating. Armagedillo is a 4-star card. Okay, folks, there we go. Just one card, but at least it was a legendary this time around. A pretty fun legendary, too. I love the idea. The story behind this card is pretty ridiculous. This big defensive taunting armadillo is fantastic. So share your thoughts on this one. Do you think I overrated it? Do you think it's still going to suck just because it's too reliant on hand buffs? Do you think it's going to be even better? It's going to be a defining staple of the class or the meta? Share those thoughts in the comments below. But until then, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.